Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. And today we're going to do another page in our watercolor journals, and it's going to be a landscape kind of day. So if you saw the last video, and if you're a regular watcher, you'll notice that I have a few different or a slightly different supply setup. So I'm using my Bao Watercolor Journal 6x9. This is usual. I usually use this. I also have some Velvet Touch brushes today, a size 10, 6, and 4. I might grab something else later on as well. I have a pencil and a kneaded eraser here. We're going to do a little landscape sketching. But what's different is my palette. Now, it's not different paints necessarily. I'm always using Core, or recently, the last couple of years, I am a Core girl. Golden is the company, Core is the brand of watercolor, and I normally have a really big palette, but so this is my Core palette that I normally use here, the big one, 24 colors, but I recently got this Core mini pan palette, and I used it in the last video just to kind of demonstrate, but I'm going to keep using it for a couple of videos. I really love it. I'm so glad that I impulse purchased it, and we'll go from there. I think it's going to be a great little travel palette for me that's easy peasy to kind of just take along with me. So it's got a great set of colors in it, but watch the last video if you want a full demonstration of it. But just wanted to mention that if you happen to not see the last video, but notice I am using different paints today. So we're going to do a landscape. I'm going to do just a fun, easy breezy, mountainous kind of landscape with a little meadow. I'm going to have my mountains coming from the side here. So I am just going to draw kind of these swooping mountain ranges that are coming from this direction. They are going to end, I think, right around here. This is going to be meadow all in front here. And then maybe I can put another one like right here. There we go. So a nice side swooping mountain range. We can add trees and things to this. This can be smaller and actually close up more of a hill. If we want to add trees up here, maybe we'll do some pines, like a pine cluster at the top. So because of the scale of the trees, if the trees are this big, this is more of a large hill than a mountain range, but we'll do some trees up at the top here. And maybe we'll even do a tree or two kind of in this area down here. We could do some smaller ones further back. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm not using any kind of reference photo for myself right now. I'm just using the reference of my imagination from living in a very mountainous and tree covered area in the New York State Hudson Valley region. So we got a little bit of everything. We got rivers, we got mountains, we got meadows, we got pines and deciduous and all kinds of things. Ponds and lakes, and so I love living where I live. Okay, so this palette comes with these 12 colors, more than what I need to get this done. So we have 2 blues, 2 yellows, 2 reds. I got an orange, a purple, a green, and a bunch of neutrals. We are good to go to make any color under the sun that we want. So with that being said, let's pick Ultramarine. There was a little color on top of that. Looked like a little Payne's gray was mixed in, but we're going to pick Ultramarine for our sky. This is a warmer blue. I'm going to water it down. So sorry, I have this little frog in my throat. It's because I ate a brownie right before this. So it's like that delicious dessert throat. All right. So now that I have my blue, I'm just going to go over my sky. It's going to be mostly blue sky. We'll put in an approximation of some clouds. So I'm just going to start over here and add lots of water. And we'll do like wispy clouds. So as I'm going, you can see those areas I've left a little bit whiter. I'm going to go right along the edge of my pencil line. I'm going to go right over them, not worry about it too much. You can see I'm picking up, let me put this in a view. I'm picking up water rather than more paint right now and just using the paint that's on the page and moving it around. So up in here, this could be seen as kind of lots of wispy clouds, and we'll make some darker areas now that we've laid that down. So everything is wet, and now when I put in kind of some darker blue around these other wispy white areas, that'll translate more into clouds in the sky. So clouds are the white, and you can pull off color too, but just remember you can't really get back to fully white once or you can get pretty close, but depending on the color you use, if it's staining. So I'm just pulling off some color right now with a damp brush, wiping it on my paper towel and rinsing it. And then to some of these other spots, I'm just going to add a little more paint to make them a little darker. This one got a little magenta in it. And I want to break these two lines up here a little bit. So I'm going to put in kind of a in-between jagged line right here. There we go. All right, so we got a nice wispy clouded sky, lots of blue. And now we can let that dry and we can get into our mountain range. The only thing that's bugging me just a little bit, and I'm sure it will be fine, I'm just gently, with a very damp brush, kind of pulling off a little color right there. All right, I'm going to let it dry and do its thing. Now our mountain range, or our hills, we could go more stone, kind of rocky mountains with some gray colors, and then add in some greens. I think that's what we'll do. So I'm going to go with Payne's Gray. I'm actually going to mix that out here in this area. I'm going to start with light Payne's Gray, and then we're going to add some darker colors and some greens kind of mixed in to add some texture of like grasses and mosses and things like that. So with this, I am swooping down. I am using my brush in like a dry brush capacity. So I'm not putting a lot of paint and water on it, just enough, and then letting that texture kind of show through. This is going to kind of be all gray back here. All right, I'm going to pull out a little sap green. I'm going to do a little of this in here. And this is kind of the first layer, so don't get too caught up on it being like perfect. You can definitely add in, look at that move. All right, let's go back to our Payne's Gray. I'm using a size 10 brush so far for the whole thing. This is pretty dry. I'm going to add some darker texture on top. Sorry, there was a huge pause there. I'm going to add some darker texture on top, and I might actually switch to my smaller brush. So I'm just not dealing with as much paint and water all at one time. So leaving little gaps, highlights in some spots. And you can see I'm always going in this diagonal slanted motion here. Letting my brush skip around. Getting most of the paint off of it and then dry brushing. So just letting my brush pick up a little bit of the still wet paint there, but giving it this texture. And then I'm going to go back in with some green. Actually, I'm going to warm up this gray a little bit and add some warmer tones. So I'm going to take my Payne's Gray. I'm going to take some of this yellow here. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. It's going to make it too green. I'm actually going to take some of, and I don't know these colors that well yet, so bear with me. That's Magenta. This is the Burnt Umber. So this is that Burnt Umber color, brown, so a little bit warmer. I'm going to add some of that in here. So it's a mix of like rock and stone and dirt. And we're going to even put some greenery in there. Let's some more sap green. So I'm painting around my little clip here. You can definitely move your clip if it's bothering you or in your way. Well, then it gets in the way of my palette. Let's move it up to the top. I think I'm pretty much done up there. All right, let's infuse a little bit of green spots. Up here. I just mixed some of the Ultramarine in with my green there. I'm going to build up this corner as a little bit darker. I'm going to put some vertical texture in here. Right down front. Okay. I'm going to just take this littler brush. There's nothing on this right now. No water, no paint. I'm just going to use it to kind of move around and create texture in this very wet paint down here. You don't always have to add more paint or more water every time your brush touches the paper. Just as a reminder, you can just use it as a tool to manipulate what's already on your page. All right, I'm going to leave that for now. Let's go into the trees up here. So we're going to make some pines, I think. Or we could do, Yeah, let's start with pines, but we could also do some deciduous trees. So I'm making these a bluish green, so sap green and ultramarine blue. Give me this lovely little pine color. Now, if you have never done pine trees before and you're still learning, I would check out some of the other videos. I have one way back in the beginning of the journal series where we go over different types of ways to make pines. I'm just stippling my way through, which is, stippling just means kind of dotting, poking and dotting your brush up and down, leaving some little gaps. Did you hear my tummy grumble? I guess it wants another brownie. All right, so some pines in the background here. I think some of these I'm going to make leafy trees. The lighter the color of the pine, like so if I do a very faded pine, like that's smaller, it'll look further away. All right, so let's finish these up. Oh, I switched brushes. Let's go back. And I'm going to break the line here. I'm going to bring it off the ridge, kind of sitting in the center. Make this one even a little wider. And a little funky shaped. There we go. And then also I'm going to give it a little, where's my Payne's gray? I'm going to put a little shadow underneath. Okay, now these trees over here, we could stick with pines, but I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a leafier tree. So I'm going to go a little more sap green, a little less blue. I'm going to lighten it up. And basically, just going to make a wider I'm not going to get into trying to make particular trees. These are just going to be leafy. I don't know if they're oak or maple or whatnot. I'm sure it's neither of those. Once I get my first layer on, I'm gonna go in with some darker sap green, pop it in a few places. Now I don't have any trunks in yet. That's gonna come in just a second. Generally, trees on a day like this, they're gonna be lightest at the top and they're gonna be a little heavier, darker at the bottom. I may even add in a little I added a little ultramarine into some of them at the bottom. You can see I leave lots of gaps and little holes. And now let's pick up that brown oxide. No, which one is this? I keep forgetting. The burnt umber. I have transparent brown oxide, but that's much orangier color. So here is my color palette. So this is the burnt umber. And if you want it to be darker or less red, you can add a little Payne's gray to it. I don't want it to be quite as thick. And I'm putting that trunk and some branches all the way up through the trees. Oh, I'm so sorry. You can even add some kind of ground creep of your roots on some of them if you want. And then we're going to put some more green down. Some horizontal textures. Just showing that there are some shadows underneath the trees. And you can also go in and create some vertical texture. So I have a little liner brush here. This really thin, narrow brush. You want to be really controlled with your vertical textures. You can, this is helpful to create really thin lines. You don't have to worry too much about. It's really hard to make a thick line with these. And then we can go back over here and add some more tall grasses. And I'm going to go switch to this brush because these are a little bigger over here. Bigger space. Put little clumps that are like bushes. There we go. We have a nice, beautiful blue sky day. You can always go back into here and add more craggy textures with our Payne's gray, making it even darker. I would just be careful. The darker you go and the more you add, try not to cover up everything below it. Let those other layers shine through in some way. Each subsequent layer you get on should be smaller and smaller, take up less space. More fine lines and details. Put some darker color kind of right under this tree line here. There we go. All right, I think we're done with our nice little mountainous, hillious landscape. Some fun trees and some lovely pines and deciduous trees. I'm just going to make this one a little darker in this one side. I'm going to have it split right here because it got kind of thick. There we go. And actually, I'm going to just fill in this a little bit more to support that really thick trunk that I got in there. You need a bigger tree. There we go. Okay, so now let's take off our tape along the edges. Thank you so much for joining me today with this nice little simple landscape. I hope you enjoyed painting with me. Don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials, especially if you want to check out this new little core mini palette. Like and subscribe to the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. I always love to hear your comments if you have one, but don't feel pressured or obligated to do so. All right, everyone, I will see you for our next watercolor journal page very soon. Hope you enjoyed this landscape. Happy painting, y'all.